On Rye, Chapter 15. My father always ran the neighborhood kids away from our house. I was told not to play with them, but I walked down the street and watched them anyhow. "Hey, Heine," they yelled, "why don't you go back to Germany?" Somehow they had found out about my birthplace. The worst thing was that they were all about my age, and they not only hung together because they lived in the same neighborhood, but because they went to the same Catholic school. They were tough kids. They played tackle football for hours, and almost every day a couple of them got into a fist fight. The four main guys were Chuck, Eddie, Gene, and Frank. "Hey, Heine, go back to Krautland." There was no getting in with them. Then a red-headed kid moved in next door to Chuck. He went to some kind of special school. I was sitting on the curb next to him one day when he came out of his house. He sat on the curb next to me. "Hi, my name's Red. I'm Henry." He sat there and watched the guys play football. I looked at Red. "How come you got a glove on your left hand?" I asked. "I've only got one arm," he said. "That hand looks real." "It's fake. It's a fake arm. Touch it." "What?" "Touch it. It's fake." I felt it. It was hard. Rock hard. How'd that happen? I was born that way. The arm's fake all the way up to the elbow. I've got to strap it on. I've got little fingers at the end of my elbow, fingernails and all, but the fingers aren't any good. "You got any friends?" I asked. "No. Me neither." "Those guys won't play with you?" "No. I got a football." "Can you catch it?" "Straight shit," said Red. "Go get it." "Okay." Red went back to his father's garage and came out with a football. He tossed it to me. Then he backed across his front lawn. "Go on, throw it." I let it go. His good arm came around, his bad arm came around, and he caught it. The arm made a slight squeaking sound as he caught the football. "Nice catch," I said. "Now wing me one." He cocked his arm and let it fly. It came like a bullet, and I managed to hold it onto it as it dug into my stomach. "You're standing too close," I told him. "Step back some more." At last, I thought, some practice catching and throwing. It felt real good. Then I was a quarterback. I rolled back, straight-armed an invisible tackler, and let go a spiral fly. It fell short. Red ran forward, leaped, caught the ball, rolled over 3 or 4 times, and still held on to it. "You're good, Red. How'd you get so good?" "My father taught me. We practiced a lot." Then Red walked back and let one sail. It looked to be over my head as I ran back for it. There was a hedge between Red's house and Chuck's house. I fell into the hedge going for the ball. The ball hit the top of the hedge and bounced over. I went around to Chuck's yard to get the ball. Chuck passed the ball to me. "So you got yourself a freak friend, eh, Heine?" It was a couple of days later, and Red and I were on his front lawn passing and kicking the football. Chuck and his friends weren't around. Red and I were getting better and better. Practice, that's all it took. All the guy needed was a chance. Somebody was always controlling who got a chance and who didn't. I caught one over the shoulder, whirled and winged it back to Red, who leaped high and came down with it. Maybe Sunday we'd play for USC. Then I saw 5 boys walking down the sidewalk towards us. They weren't guys from my grammar school. They were our age and looked like trouble. Red and I kept throwing the ball, and they stood watching us. Then one of the guys stepped onto the lawn, the biggest. "Throw me the ball," he said to Red. "Why?" "I want to see if I can catch it." "I don't care if you can catch it or not. Throw me the ball." "He's got one arm," I said. "Leave him alone." "Stay out of this, monkey face." Then he looked at Red. "Throw me the ball." "Go to hell," said Red. "Get the ball," the big guy said to the others. They ran at us. Red turned and threw the ball on the roof of his house. The roof was slanted, the ball rolled back down, but managed to stick behind a drain pipe. Then they were on us. 5-2, I thought. There's no chance. Caught a fist on the temple, swung and missed. Somebody kicked me in the ass. It was a good one and burned all the way up the spine. Then I heard a cracking sound. It was almost like a rifle shot, and one of them was down on the ground holding his forehead. "Oh shit," he said. "My skull is crushed." I saw Red, and he was standing in the center of the lawn. He was holding the hand of his fake arm with the hand of his good arm. It was like a club. Then he swung again. There was another loud crack, and another of them was down on the lawn. I began to feel brave. I landed a punch right on the guy's mouth. I saw the lips split, and the blood began to dribble down his chin. The other 2 ran off. Then the big guy who got down first got up, and the other one got up. They held their heads. The other bloody mouth stood there. Then they retreated down the street together. When they got quite a way down, the big guy turned around and said, "We'll be back." Red began running toward them, and I ran behind Red. They started running, and Red and I stopped chasing them after they turned the corner. We walked back, found a lad in the garage, and we got the football down and began throwing it back and forth. One Saturday, Red and I decided to go swimming at the public pool down in Bimini Street. Red was a strange guy. He didn't talk much, but I didn't talk much either, and we got along. There was nothing to say, anyhow. The only thing I ever really asked him about was his school, but he just said it was a special school and that it cost his father some money. We arrived at the pool in the early afternoon, got our lockers, and took our clothes off. We had our swimming trunks on underneath. Then I saw Red unhitch his arm and put it in his locker. It was the first time since the fight I had seen him without his fake arm. I tried not to look at his arm, which ended at the elbow. We got to the place where you had to soak your feet in a chlorine solution. It stank, but it stopped the spread of athlete's foot or something. Then we walked to the pool and got in. The water stank too, and after I was in, I pissed in it. There were people of all ages in the pool, men and women, boys and girls. Red really liked the water. He leaped up and down in it. Then he ducked under and came up. He spit water out of his mouth. I tried to swim. I couldn't help noticing Red's half arm. Couldn't help looking at it. I always made sure to look at it when I thought he was occupied with something else. It ended at the elbow, sort of rounded off, and I saw the little fingers. I didn't want to stare real hard, but it seemed as if there were only 3 or 4 of them, very tiny, curled up there. They were very red, and each of the tiny fingers had a little fingernail. Nothing was going to grow anymore. It had all stopped. I didn't want to think about it. I dove under. I was going to scare Red. I was going to grab his legs from behind. Came up against something soft. My face went right into it. It was a fat woman's ass. I felt her grab me by the hair, and she pulled me up out of the water. She had on a blue bathing cap, and the strap was tied around her chin, digging into her flesh. Her front teeth were capped with silver, and her breath smelled of garlic. "You dirty little pervert, trying for free grabs, are you?" I pushed away from her, backed off. As I moved backwards, she followed me through the water, her sagging breast pushing a tidal wave in front of her. "You dirty little prick. You want to suck my titties? You got a dirty mind, huh? You want to eat my shit? How about some of my shit, little prick?" I backed up further into the deeper water. I was now standing on my toes, moving backwards. I swallowed some water. She kept coming, a steamship of a woman. I couldn't retreat any further. She moved right up to me. Her eyes were pale and blank. There wasn't any color in them. I felt her body touching mine. "Touch my cunt," she said. "I didn't want to touch it, so go ahead. Touch my cunt. Touch it. Touch it." She waited. "If you don't, I'm going to tell the lifeguard you molested me and you'll be put in jail. Now touch it." I couldn't do it. Suddenly she reached under, grabbed my parts, and yanked. She almost tore my dong off. I fell backwards into the deep water, sank, struggled, and came to the top. I was 6 feet away from her, began swimming toward shallow water. "Gonna tell the lifeguard you molested me," she screamed. Then a man swam between us. "Little son of a bitch," she pointed at me and screamed at the man. "You grabbed my cunt." "Lady," said the man. The boy probably thought it was the grate over the drain. I swam over to Red. "Listen," I said. "We've got to get out of here. That fat lady's going to tell the lifeguard that I touched her cunt." "What'd you do that for?" Red asked. "I wanted to see what it felt like." "What'd it feel like?" We got out of the pool, showered. Red put his arm back on and we dressed. "Did you really do it?" he asked. "The guy's got to get started sometime." It was a month or so later that Red's family moved. One day they were just gone, just like that. Red never said anything in advance to me. He was gone, the football was gone, and those tiny red fingers with fingernails, they were gone. He was a good guy.